Westworld Season 4 Episode 7 has just released on HBO Max, and in this episode, we saw a change of mind in this season's narrative. In particular, a metanoia that has led to the survival of the fittest, and this also includes a return from the infamous Man in Black. In this spoiler review and explained analysis, I'm going to be giving you my breakdown of Westworld Season 4 Episode 7, entitled Metanoia, alongside discussing my general thoughts towards it. But before I get into it, if you want to see more videos on Season 4 of Westworld, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my review and explained video for Westworld Season 4 Episode 7. So in the 7th episode of Season 4, we learn that the apocalypse has only just begun. In a world where humans controlled and tortured hosts, alongside seeing the reverse of that in Season 4, it got us wondering whether there would be any way for the two species to ever coexist. Well, Episode 7 sets more fire to that idea, with many of the main players taking the axe, temporarily or maybe even fatally, while another central character made an existential development, and as predicted, may be the main threat going forward. So let's discuss what happened with all the main characters in the penultimate episode of Westworld Season 4. So starting with Bernard, we know that he has been leading others down a path, the one path that can help prevent doomsday. But what do all the other paths entail? Well, we learn of one right from the get-go, with the episode opening with one of the many simulations he ran inside of the Sublime. Bernard created a trial of him and Maeve arriving at the Hoover Dam, where I predicted we would see the door, based on that previous footage from the main Season 4 trailer. Once there, he's seeing whether the real Maeve would allow him to upload her to the Sublime so that she can be with her daughter. And once she agrees, he questions whether that's how she'd really reply. Simulation Maeve says, well, why don't you ask the real me? So it turns out that Bernard went through different outcomes of this scenario, and it's right before a riot control machine breaks through the wall and kills them both. And that's when the scene cuts, the on-screen borders expand, and we witness what comes of this exact moment in the real world. When they get to the facility, we find out that Dolores did send the Sublime to these servers at the Hoover Dam back at the end of Season 2, and it's the same location host William acquired at the start of Season 4. And in this real-world version of those simulated events we saw before, Maeve once again asks to be sent to the Sublime, but this time she doesn't need Bernard to ask her. So this seems like the outcome of the right path that Bernard has been trying to stay on. And this is likely true because Maeve destroys the riot control machine, and Bernard tells her that they must reach Hale's tower if they want to save the world. Maeve agrees to help him, but only on one condition, that he help her reunite with her daughter when it's all done. So the scene ends with Bernard opening the Sublime door, and then both heading off back to New York with Stubbs and Frankie. Bernard and Maeve are on their way to the tower to take on Dolores, while Stubbs and Frankie journey to the Olympiad Entertainment Building to rescue Caleb. Coming now to the events with Hale, we get her reaction to all the difficulties she's been facing with the human outliers in previous episodes. After everything Caleb's been through, Hale of course rebuilt the 279th version of him, and she goes to his chamber to taunt him one last time. She tells him that she's going to place the humans in cold storage and use him to lure in the resistance there so she can take them all out. And with that that's sorted, she'll undergo her transcendence process too. Host William is also present here, and with us knowing what we currently do about his ever-changing process, you can understand that he seems visibly uncomfortable to all of this going on. And this is where Hale sends a message to the hosts and explains that they are leaving the humans behind to evolve. Her transcending process essentially involves abandoning their host bodies, and the pearls are taken out and placed into the top of a taller machine structure. So it's a way of getting rid of their human-looking bodies and replacing that with a structure more suitable for a new species. Something a lot of us also predicted earlier on in the season too. But while she does this, she doesn't consider the threat that her host partner may cause once he goes through his form of metanoia. Host William visits human William and has a change of heart about the future of the human species. He asks his human version what he would do in the situation of not agreeing with what's happening, and he replies by telling him that it doesn't matter which of them defeats Hale because they are the same. In saying this, the host copy of William kills his original self, and while OG William is now dead, I'd once again remember to keep in mind that we are yet to reach that fidelity test from the season 2 post-credit scene. We're eventually going to reach that moment by either the end of this season or in season 5, so there's still big developments to take place there. But while all of this is going down, we also have to go over the events with Christina in episode 7, as it's starting to become more clear surrounding her place in this developing narrative. Christina wakes up, this time with Teddy sitting at the end of her bed, and she's quick to express her confusion towards why she would create this brutal world for everyone. Teddy tells her what we all presumed, that she has many different sides and that Hale is one of them. Dolores being the Wyatt and Charlotte Hale version of her, and Christina being the Dolores that sees beauty in the world, or that we guess she will become. Could be wrong, but that's my current understanding of that. Anyway, when Christina is told this, she leaves the room, locks the bathroom door, and attempts to drown herself after all the confusion. Teddy can't make it inside the bathroom in time, but while she drowns, she also eventually emerges from the water being quite different. Once settled down, she begins to ask Teddy what Dolores was like, and he tells her that while she was kind, she could also be cruel. That the world was like that to her, and she would eventually go beyond the stories she was made to follow. So again, that's why I think we are literally seeing the different versions of her. But as we continue, Teddy and Christina make a move towards the Olympiad Entertainment building, and once there, Christina commands employees to leave. Before doing so, she also commands them to destroy their stories, with Christina and Teddy now free to make their way down to the lower levels of this building. And this is where characters shockingly converge. Christina discovers Caleb, and she uses her newfound powers to have him released, while Frankie and Stubbs just miss them while infiltrating Olympiad 2. Before Frankie reunites with her father, they first discover dead human William left in the cryo chamber. Frankie says that they can help him, but with Stubbs recognizing William, he says to her that whoever did this did them a favor. They quickly come in contact with Caleb, who Christina just let free, and with him previously subjugated to the torture he was, Caleb attacks them both in thinking that it's all just another game. Frankie tells him who she is, and while this doesn't work, once she reminds him that only he calls her Cookie, it's a moment that emotionally triggers Caleb to realize that this is in fact his true daughter. Meanwhile, we cut to Maeve and Bernard, who approach the tower to confront Hale, and on the way up, Bernard tells Maeve what he didn't tell her previously, and that is that they can't win. He says to her, "There's no way to save the world, everyone here is going to die, but we can save one tiny part of it." She agrees to continue the mission, and on reaching the transcending room of the tower, Maeve catches Dolores in a moment where she's about to do just that. that. A drone host is about to remove her pearl and place it into the host structure that she wants her kind to become. Hale spots Maeve, aborts the process, and grabs the device from the drone host so that she can battle it out with Maeve. They fight and move outside the tower, scrambling in the shallow waters until the eventful end of this episode comes into fruition. Maeve is shot in the head by host William, who doesn't stop there because he turns on his creator, shooting Hale too. He leaves their bodies in the waters surrounding the tower and makes his way up to meet Bernard. Bernard is at the top of the tower, and it looks like he has been recording himself on a tablet. In the recording, he says, "If you choose to give her that choice, you can't miss. Reach with your left hand." We have no idea who this message is for and what it will mean come the end of the season, but right now, if I had to guess, I would say that it was for Christina once she might come back as Dolores. And we'll have to wait for the answer to the question of who that message was for, because host William arrives soon after and shoots Bernard in the head. Now we know that host characters can come back in this show, but it did seem that Bernard's exit was quite the final one. We see him follow his son Charlie through Arnold's door in the Sublime-like vision, and that was very reflective of his backstory. We also hear his voice repeat what he said to Akecheta in the Sublime, which was, "In every scenario, I die." So it seems to indicate that he was making a real sacrifice by carrying through with this. Maybe we'll get a final scene with him in the Sublime or something in the finale, but I don't know how they'd bring back OG Bernard after this. And coming back to the responsible host William, after he makes this move to kill Bernard, he commands Hale's tower to send out a large sound that will result in the most fatal of moves yet. He says to the tower device, "Every man and woman and child, host and human, will fight until no one remains but the cockroaches." So using the tower, he's ordered the humans to turn on the hosts, and it will of course create widespread chaos. We see Frankie, Stubbs and Caleb back on the ground, and once this signal is sent out, all the people around them begin to fight with each other violently. The three of them do manage to escape, but Frankie takes an injury on the way out. So coming to the ending, it's clear now that what happened was what Bernard said would happen. Bernard was always going to die, the city was going to burn as we saw out the window of the tower in the Sublime, and the chances of everyone surviving was very slim. Bernard told us those things before, but what he also told us was that the path he stayed on would give a small part of the world a chance or a small ounce of hope to those left. Not for himself, not for Maeve, and not for anyone specifically, but for the world that remains as a whole. In the episode's ending scene, host William emerges from the tower in his original Westworld Man in Black clothing and walks towards the city, gun in hand, as the tower blows up behind him. So it looks like the tone he sent out for humans and hosts to fight will stick with them until the strongest do survive, or from what I presume is the outliers. It's a great scene set to David Bowie's The Man Who Sold the World, and it promises us a sort of return to the focus this show previously had. And that is the focus that was placed on two characters, one being the Man in Black and his grapples with reality as a human being, alongside that of Dolores, who grapples with both the beauty and the violence in the world. Christina's final scene is with Teddy as she realises that she's invisible to everyone around her. Of course, Teddy said to her that the world was cruel to Dolores, and to survive it, sometimes she would be cruel too. So is Christina an experiment of what Dolores would be like without the trauma she originally faced? And that question comes up because for 1 minute she was able to control everyone at her work office, and the next, nobody can see her. Teddy tells her, "You're not in this world, it's real, but you're not." So from one perspective, it explains why she looks like Dolores, because she's a version of her that can somehow witness everything happening in the real world. And it almost certainly explains why Teddy said they were reflections of humanity and not hosts. She's been programmed into this set of events, but she's now invisible to the beings there. And with this episode not explaining why she was able to interact with previous human characters like her boss, Maya, or Peter from the first episode, it does make things quite confusing. Is this some sort of fidelity test for Christina or something else entirely? I'm not entirely sure at this point, but my guess would be that the events we've seen play out are being shown to Christina in a real-time simulation from inside of the Sublime. I don't know who would be behind it or how that would work, but I'd guess that maybe she's seeing this within there. Who's to say that Dolores didn't upload a version of herself to the Sublime before she sent it away to the Hoover Dam location? And maybe Bernard gave her some data while he was there based on his predictive visions or the uploaded data since. If that is the case, it would also explain why Teddy is present with her, because he never escaped the Sublime. And it would also explain all the things that just happened surrounding her not being visible to anyone. The Sublime is whatever you want it to be, and pairing that with data from what's actually happening in the real world might lead to what we've seen with Christina. So maybe she is in the Sublime, and once she fully gathers her inner Dolores, then someone may be able to reprint her with that knowledge. But in saying all of this, I have to mention that this doesn't quite fit in line with what Teddy said about this world being real and her not being real, and also how she was able to interact and change things within it. It's very complex, and I think that's a great thing if they do give us some powerful answers surrounding everything going on. So what are my overall thoughts on episode 7? Well, this was the point in which I realised that if you haven't followed Westworld since the beginning, you're not going to clearly understand the whole puzzle and why it all matters. And even if you have been on this train, the show loves to challenge you as a viewer to piece together exactly why it takes things in a certain direction. Of course, we hope that by the end of the story, the questions will bring satisfying answers. And I think season 4 is on the path to bringing those answers in a satisfying way, especially for those who have stuck along. Metanoia means the simple act of changing someone's mind, or a description for changing someone's heart and abandoning a version for a more authentic one. And we saw multiple versions of that here. William kills his more authentic human self and is now the man in black in a survival of the fittest construct. Christina has reflected on who she is more than the other versions of Dolores we've seen, and Hale was ready to transcend and abandon her human skin before host William came and set fire to that plan. This all links into the questions of what is real and does any of it matter. In a simpler way, host William asks his human self that very question, and his reply is that this is quite a weak notion to have at this point. He says, "We're not here to transcend, we're here to destroy," and what follows is a part of William in a host body, seeking the darkness he once had, walking into the city to carry out a real game of survival. We learn that he now believes civilization is the false ideal rather than the parks he was once playing the game in. Humans can't hide from the destructive nature with which their history has aligned with, and host Man in Black is here to pull the plug on it and leave behind the fittest. And Bernard saw how this would all turn out as we witness both the death of the humans and the hosts. So we're left with William trying to ensure the survival of the human race by tearing the world down around them. They could never survive the way things are, but to him they can if the fittest remain. So we get quite the honest implications in the latest episode, and I'm really excited to see how all of it develops in the finale. Westworld has gone back to focus on the questions it used to focus on, and I think it's all the better for it. Let's hope the final episode gives us all of the main answers to this season's explorations, and does so to a satisfying degree. But that was my spoiler review and explained analysis for Westworld Season 4, Episode 7. I'm giving it a rating of 9 out of 10. I will be doing a trailer breakdown, predictions, and theories video for Episode 8 in the next few days, so keep a lookout for that and stay tuned to my channel each week for breakdowns on every episode of Season 4. But to those who have already seen the episode, what are your thoughts on all all the events that went down, and what do you think will happen in the season 4 finale? Let me know down below in the comment section. For more videos on every episode of Westworld Season 4, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.